Hi everybody, Sean Allen with Broken Bow Kennels. Now that the hunting seasons are over and we're looking for things to polish up on for next year, everyone's got their dogs going through force fetch or maybe working on steadiness in the off season. Today I'd like to do a short demonstration on various traps and snares that we can run into with our dogs and how to free our dogs from those traps. All right, the first trap that we're going to talk about is a snare. Snares are unfortunately one of the most common that we run into. They run them along fence lines, places where we like to hunt pheasants, sharptail, anywhere where we have a shelter belt along a fence. Those are common places where we'll also find snares. A lot of folks talk about carrying a wire cutter or some type of multi-tool to cut these, but sometimes a snare can cinch down so tightly there's just no good way to get between the snare and your dog. If it does pull tight enough, you actually will get tissue that will wrap all the way around the cable of the snare and you won't be able to find the snare underneath the tissue. So I'm going to show you a super easy way to get a commercial snare loose. They're actually nearly all the same. This is a pretty foolproof method to getting it done. All right, Aiden, right here. So the snare will be set like this. It'll be in an area of travel that the trapper has previously noticed. And it'll be hung, it'll be anchored, and this is what our dogs run into. So dog will go through the snare, pressure causes it to slip, and the snare cinches down around our dog. And you know, on my arm you can obviously see the cable, something you might be able to cut. These braided rope or braided wire ropes are not easy to cut as they are, let alone when they're tied around a dog's neck. So super easy way to do it. Wrap your hand around the running edge of this snare, put your thumb on the locking mechanism and rock it back towards that running end and it will release. So regardless of how tight it is, grab that running end and rock it back and it will release. Next one we'll talk about is a foothold trap or a pan trap. This is what we would find around here, used for fox, bobcats, that sort of thing. Areas that we like to hunt around the rim rock here in Idaho. Super great areas for chucker, great areas for huns, also great areas for bobcats, and that's where the trappers like to leave their traps. These traps are super easy to release, only has one arm on it. Depress that arm and both sides of the trap will drop out of the way, can release your dog. All right, this is my assistant Aiden. He's going to demonstrate our next foothold trap. We just triggered our next foothold trap, and this one, unlike the small one that we demonstrated for bobcats, is a wolf trap. Wolf trapping has become common in the Rocky Mountain states since the reintroduction of the gray wolf, and these traps are not the same animal as the other footholds, and I'll demonstrate why. So I weigh 240 pounds, and it is an effort for me to get that trap open. If you aren't able to put a significant amount of force on both of these triggers or both of these clamps, then you're not able to open that. So this is how you do it. Aiden, come on up here. So we've talked about people carrying multi-tools with them. This would be a good reason why. Take these two nuts off and this trap will fall open. Both of these arms will come up out of the trap and you can release your dog that way. But once the dog is in a foothold that is this size, you're not just going to be able to clamp it down with your hands. It's going to take a significant amount of effort. The last trap that we're going to demonstrate is a conibear trap. These traps are a very humane trap as far as the trapper is concerned. They're designed to kill an animal quickly with minimal damage to a hide. And they're also pretty devastating on a dog. So it's important that we know how to get our dog out of there quickly. The way that these are set, they'll be found along canal banks, areas where an animal would move through a thick part of cover. We find them a lot in pheasant habitat, in cattail sloughs, those sorts of things, along creek beds. When the trap is set, there are two prongs that trigger the trap. Animal enters the trap this way, presses on the prong, and the trap is triggered. So our Leatherman and our wire cutters aren't going to do us any good on this. All the joints on these are rolled metal or rivets. So it's very important in our packs, along with our first aid kit and the other things that aren't necessarily hunting related, is to carry a leash. A 6-foot flat nylon leash is perfect. I carry this. It's a super lightweight slip lead, so I don't have to carry a lot of extra gear in my bag. But this is how we release our dog from a conibear trap. And we do need to be proficient at this. This takes a little bit of practice. It's not always a guaranteed thing, but it's not an easy one to get your dogs out of. So you're gonna run the handle of your nylon leash or leather leash, whatever you're carrying, through both loops of the spring arm on one side. It doesn't matter which side you start with. Run that over your foot. You're gonna take the leash, go back through the spring, and now we can start to compress that spring. Are you able to see that, Aiden? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we'll pull, we'll compress this spring until we can put the catch on there and it won't slip anymore. Take this out of that arm. Same thing on the opposite side. Compress your spring, put the catch on, and now we can release our dog from this trap. All right, just to recap, our snares, we're going to run our forefingers along the running edge of that snare. We're gonna rock the locking mechanism back towards that running end, and that will release the lock on that snare, and it will snip loose. Then on our footholds, on the small bobcat sized, just depressing that arm, we'll let the trap open, we can free our dog. On the large traps, the wolf size footholds, if you're not a heavyweight to compress both of those arms, then a multi-tool, a pair of pliers to remove the two nuts on the bottom of that trap and just disassemble the trap. Finally, the conibear, an excellent reason to carry a leash with us, and we're just going to systematically, but as quickly as we can, compress both of the springs, put the safety catch on, and that will allow that trap to open. Hope everyone has a safe hunting season. Thanks.